Okay, we're at Browns Creek. It is October 20th, and it is air temperature about 33 degrees. Cold, we're in this cold snap. It should be about 50 degrees this time of year. Anyway, we're at Browns Creek, and I'll give you kind of a panoramic view. This is upstream, and that's downstream. And to my right and upslope is the Browns Creek Trail. You can see kind of the fencing up there. I'll probably have to talk closer to the mic so you can hear what I'm saying. So anyway, many years ago, over 20 years ago, the Department of Natural Resources walked from the St. Croix River up Browns Creek and looked for the best places that had cobble, that is rocks, that would allow the bug component in the creek to flourish. In other words, a sandy patch wouldn't be of much value. So the idea was that students from Stillwater could come here every year, and we have twice a year, to this spot and another spot downstream. For 20 years, 2 spots. We'd come to those 2 spots in the fall and those 2 spots in the spring, and we would do the chemical data inventory, and you can see that I've got that stuff right here. So I measured DO, temperature, pH, turbidity, phosphorus, and nitrogen. And then you can see I'm in waders. Yeah, so then what I did was I went in with a D net, that's this net right here, and I kicked around the rocks and scrubbed rocks, and all these aquatic invertebrates would get dislodged and go into the net, and from the net I put them in a bucket or a little container, and hopefully in a couple of minutes of kicking around I should be able to get 200 bugs. So the reason for the 20-year study at Browns Creek is to see how the bugs compare year to year. We also make some stream side observations. My observation this year is that there's quite a bit more sand, which is not a good sign, to have more sand leaching into the stream. But anyway, the bugs are the major concern. So for 20 years, we use the Hisenhoff matrix. I think these 2 crazy professors were just mean to aquatic insects to see when they would die. And they had those that are easy to kill and those that are hard to kill. The hard to kill bugs were things like leeches, and they gave them a score of 10. The first ones to die, whether it was a little bit of a salt added to the aquarium or a little bit of heat in the aquarium, were given a score of 0, 1, 2, 3. And the cool thing is, as we look at this Browns Creek, is that it's a designated trout stream. Its parameters, its chemistry allows trout to live here. And in fact, we stock trout for fishermen to catch in this stream. And in fact, Stillwater Area High School has released hundreds and hundreds of brown trout in this stream, even last spring. So our 20-year average for this part of Browns Creek is around 3 point something on a scale of 0 to 10, which is really, really good. So we have good water quality, and we're measuring it by virtue of the bugs this time and the chemistry like at Square Lake. So anyway, the last thing I've got to do is I took my tape right there and I stretched it across the creek, and I measured how deep it was every foot, how many inches deep every foot, and that kind of gives me a slice profile. So I do that 3 times and average it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tennis ball and I'm going to throw it upstream, and as it floats by, I'm going to see how long does it take that tennis ball to go 10 feet. And that's essentially a calculation of rate. And as you can see, I probably want to do it in the rapids and then in the slower moving area water. And with those 2 measurements, I can figure out how many gallons per day wash by Browns Creek. But this is a sample, it's sample site W3, that's what it's called. There are a number of metro streams all being measured in the same way. So anyway, I have the bugs, they're right here. If you take a look in here, we might be able to see some stuff. You might be able to see some stuff swimming around in there. It looks kind of murky, actually. I don't see much. But what we're going to do, take it back to the evil lab, the evil lair, and we're going to pour the water out over a filter and add alcohol, which is kind of sad because we're killing all these bugs. But that way they'll be available for us to identify and we can get, you know, what is the average pollution tolerance number with as many as, say, 200 bugs. Hopefully it's in that same range as how it's been. Hopefully it has a lot of caddisflies, stoneflies, mayflies. Those are the big three. And we're going to be doing some graphing of historical data later. So anyway, Browns Creek, rate of flow, profiles, DO, temperature, pH, phosphorus, nitrogen, and a bug collection. So lots of work. And I'll make a second tape for the second part of Browns Creek downstream, and we'll call that W4. So this is W3, 20-year study looking at the value of Browns Creek. And as a designated trout stream, you should be proud of living in Stillwater, in a community that values its water quality and has a trout stream. Most communities do not.